Hi, this is Larry Slagle with Joseph Cole, who's on Candidate Spotlight for Massillon Live. Joe, why don't you tell the audience what you're running for and why?
Well, thank you, Larry. I'd love to. Name is Joe Cole, running for Stark County Commissioner. Um, feel like there is many issues that we need to address in our county. For far too long, we have seen a lot of problems, and they're even more so as we are sitting here talking now.
What problems might those be?
Well, look at the property tax issue. That would be one of them. If that continues, I have a feeling that all of us are going to be looking for a new home.
Why don't you explain that a bit?
Well, they continue to rise at such an alarming rate that really puts a lot of our most vulnerable citizens, namely seniors, in a really dire situation. And if I'm lucky enough to be elected by the people for county commissioner, I'm going to be an advocate for having a property tax freeze for anyone 65 or older living in their home on disability, social security. The way we treat our seniors, not only in Stark County, but within our country, is abhorrent. They are often a great source of knowledge, resource. For example, look at the Board of Elections is having a terrible time getting poll workers for this upcoming election. Wouldn't it be great as an educator, and I'll talk a little bit about my background with that, but wouldn't it be great, Larry, if we could partner with our 18-year-old high school students, that they could get an opportunity to see how democracy truly works, to get in there and help seniors on this process? Because many high schools, one of the requirements before graduation is some sort of community service, some sort of action within our community. And that would be a fantastic opportunity, because you have all of these seniors with a wealth of information and young people that are sponges for this guidance. And that would be a one way we could solve one of the really pressing problems within our community.
Well, how does the commissioner have an impact either on the Board of Elections or the auditor in terms of the tax appraisal?
Absolutely. As commissioner, you are in many respects the chief executive of the county. Therefore, you have that platform to get in there to make actual real change by talking with people, meeting with people, your influence, all of that, especially with the Board of Elections, since that is, as you know, there was the problem that our commissioners got in with the voting machines, and that was a real issue. But
what do you mean by that?
Well,
what happened?
Well, the Board of Elections, as you know, has the right to go ahead and select the voting machines that they see fit. They went through that very long process. They did that. At that point, the commissioners were hands off, which oftentimes is really the problem that you see with our commissioners. They're not doing their due diligence. So therefore, just like the solar issue, they're coming back at this several weeks later when constituents are mad because of certain issues. They've not done their due diligence, and they get caught with their pants down around their ankles, and then they have to go into damage control. Same thing with the Dominion East Ohio situation, the Dominion voting machines. That was an exact example of them not doing their due diligence, being called on the carpet by some of their constituents that said, look, these are nefarious tools by foreign governments. All of that was proven to be false. It was conspiracy theories. And what occurred is the commissioners got you and I and every citizen in Stark County. We had to fit the bill for a purely partisan measure, so that because they then had to go to court over this issue.
What do you mean by that?
Well,
what was the bill, and what did it cost the taxpayers of the county?
Oh, quite. Their estimates have varied, but it has gone. People have said, well, we're still in the process, as you know. But it has been a very, very taxing thing on our county that this had occurred. And it's just plain partisan politics. This was a purely partisan move that the commissioners engaged in, and we all have to pay for that. We're the ones that are on the hook for it, and that just seems to me that doesn't seem like profiles and courage.
What was the actual move that you say has created the problem?
They blocked it, and then the board had to actually take the commissioners to court in order to get the machines.
To use these machines that they had already agreed to
They
purchase.
had already agreed. Once again, the commissioners were not doing their homework. Same with the solar. Let me give you the example of the solar. They have been speaking out of both sides of their mouths in regards to that. It all depends on who they're talking to. They never did their due diligence. They never went and explored until after the fact. They never held meetings in order to engage the public to see what their response was. This gets to my primary issue of what I'm really focused on. One of the things we have to do is restore transparency to Stark County government. That has been our biggest issue. And let me explain what I mean by transparency. Say you have a problem. You need to speak with the commissioners about it. You have to take off work that day. You have to go downtown. It's a mess with the traffic, with getting a parking spot. Now,
that's because the commissioners meet during the day hours.
The commissioners meet during the day when the rest of us, I don't know many people within our community that would have that luxury to take that day off. That just once again gets back to this elitist agenda that they work for us, and they simply just do not understand that. So if we held the meetings, my proposal, if elected, is what I want to do well in advance is have those meetings scheduled throughout the county, because we got to start looking at our county as one, not cities versus townships, urban versus rural. So much of that goes on. We all rise together. We're all going to sink together. We are in this together. So my plan was to move the meetings around the county where you're going to trustees' offices, and you can hold the meeting in the evening. You could go to local libraries. Then you get the opportunity. That's true government. You can come there. You can meet your public official. You can meet your county commissioner. You can go there and give them what for if they're doing something that you don't like. Right now, this is so cloak and dagger. It's behind the scenes. It happens when you and I can't simply get there. And they'll say that they have tried this in the past, but they never ever truly publicized it to get that information out, to get to folks throughout the community. So you'll have in advance where we're going to be, and we'll do that throughout the course of the year. So we'll come to you, hear your problems, and get your ideas.
Would that be on a regular rotating basis, so the people in the various areas to know that, it's a February meeting of the commissioners, so we know they're going to meet in the Bethlehem Township
Absolutely.
offices?
You could do it. Absolutely. You could do it like that. If there is a more pressing issue that's focusing on one part of our county, we could then have the ability to meet those folks. True government is when you can meet people where they're at. This notion of having these during the day keeps us all in the dark. That's why we had the issue with the Dominion, that went unnoticed. That was something that was purely partisan politics. The solar. Now, my point on the solar is I'm for all energy sources. Let's explore everything. And what I think that the commissioners didn't do their due diligence is that if there were areas that did not want that, we do have land here. For example, Cuyahoga County did this in terms of a solar farm in an area that was deemed unfit for any other usage. There had been some toxicity issues with that land. We have the same situation in Hartville. Land that cannot be used. Now, I'm not saying that is the end all, but they didn't even explore that. That is what they're paid for. That is what they should do, find solutions. Now, and why I'm so keen on that is finding solutions is, and they were a part of this document. This is the Strengthening Stark report. This came out in 2017. And in it, Larry, it says that our days in Stark County are numbered because we're becoming older, smaller, and poorer. It gives you a blueprint on what to do in order to combat these issues. What my question is, what has been done? This was the blueprint that we were all told, that this was the game plan, that if we adhere to this, that we could stop these, we could reverse, we could change the...
Who paid for this?
It was sponsored by Stark Community Foundation. And so it lays that out there. This was something that went around very heavily in 2017. And what I would suggest to you, that we are wasting valuable time by not implementing these plans that were suggested. What have we done with this?
Okay, what in your background will make you a best candidate in this race?
Oh, great question, Larry. I appreciate that. We've been doing the same thing in our county and expecting different results. We have business leaders that get into government and find out that it's not the same thing. We have lawyers that get into government and find out it's not the same thing. Why not, for once, have an educator? And that gets to who I am and what I've done. I've dedicated my life to working with young people, done everything from being a principal to a teacher to a coach. And I think it's time that an educator had a seat at the table to use some of the knowledge that I've acquired throughout my career to help best meet some of these solutions. Because when you're dealing with individuals, schools are like a microcosm of your country. I mean, everything is occurring within a school system. And I think that, what's that definition of insanity? Trying the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. Right. I mean, it's very clear. You just look around. Our community is not as clean as it once was. I see a lot more, blight. I see a lot more trash and garbage. We're a much more depressed area. Mental health is a big issue within our community. So we're on this downward path. So what do? Do we still keep the captains of the ship that have gotten us, to this point? Or do we say, hey, it's time for a change?
Are you a longtime resident of Stark County?
I am. I have grew up in North Canton, have lived in Canton now for 24 years, have loved it, loved being a teacher. I was, my only other government service was I was a 2-term councilman at large, so I'm not a
For the city of Canton?
For the city of Canton. I'm not a career politician. I'm just a regular blue-collar kid that worked himself through school, worked very hard, and I think that I want to see this place thrive. I want the opportunity for my daughter to say, hey, I want to stay in Stark County. The way it is going now, our children, our grandchildren are not going to have that choice. They are going to have to leave the area for employment unless we really try to do something.
A little bit about your educational background.
Yes, I hold a bachelor's in history and American politics. And in addition to that, I have several teaching credentials and my master's degree in educational administration. As I said, I was a principal for a number of years, but I'm very happy to be back in the classroom. I think that is the area where you really do see the incredible growth with young people. And
do you have a website or someplace if someone would want to join the commissioner campaign?
I'm glad you mentioned that, because we would take any sort of volunteers. We are not one of the, you heard my background. Like I said, I'm a regular blue collar kid. My father was a factory worker. So I think that's one of the reasons why I've been so endorsed by organized labor. Also was very happy to receive the endorsement of the Fraternal Order of Police. But getting back to the point that you brought up, look, I'm just a regular person. I'm not a lawyer. I don't have a famous last name. I'm not one of the good old boys. I'm just a regular person that sees that our community definitely needs change. My parents didn't, throw me a business, when I graduated. Everything that I have been able to accomplish has been on my own. So right now, it's myself and my 13-year-old daughter that are doing most of the campaign. And needless to say, it's not her favorite thing. So if anyone would like to help, you can always check out my Facebook page, which is Joe Cole or Joseph Cole. And then we have a campaign page that is Cole for Commish. So we're kind of taking that approach of, hey, he's been a teacher. He's been a coach. I mean, he's a taxpayer watchdog, and we're really going to hit on that.
How long is the term for commissioner?
It's 4 years.
And
yes.
How long has the current commissioner been in
my
position?
understanding, it's been 8 years. And once again, I'll give you an example of why it's time for change. We're struggling. This lays it out in here. We have a 100-year-old company within Stark County that has done all of the moving for the Stark County government, for the commissioners. They have done the moving of files. There was a $70 discrepancy from a company, a vendor out of Summit County. Your commissioners, ladies and gentlemen, when they know that our small businesses are struggling, they decided over $70 to go with a Summit County company. Now, what a slap in the face to every small business owner and every resident within Stark County. Not to mention the refurbishing of their own offices at an exorbitant rate, when there are many Stark County facilities that were in dire need. It's like an officer. I'm a big history guy. And when you read stories about the military, the officer always eats last, right? It seems like they're always at the front of the line. I had an opportunity to be at a Meet the Candidates night with Stark County Jobs and Family Services is the largest organization or department that the commissioners oversee. Well, the poor social workers that were there, they are well over their limits in terms of caseload. And when they were looking at different opportunities to better themselves, which is what everyone should try to do when it comes to employment, they were chastised. It has been a hostile work environment, and the solutions that were given were very silly. They were not practical, and this had been going on for quite some time. So it's issues like this, time and time again. It's always retroactive, and that's what happens when you're not doing your job. You got to play CYA, right, to fix things, and you see that time and time again. Whether it's solar, whatever your opinion on the solar is, that's fine, but the commissioner should have been looking for a compromise that would have satisfied the folks within the community and something that would have created jobs, which is something that they said they were going to do by following this, and they haven't made the tough choices to do that.
Well, if there were 3 things that you wanted to tell the viewers as to why they should vote for Joe Cole for commissioner on November 5th, what would they be?
Well, we need change, folks. We've been doing the same thing, and you know it as well as I do. We've become poorer. Our community is less happy. It's less beautiful than it used to be as well from all the blight. We need to restore transparency in local government. You can no longer do these backroom deals all the time and expect the citizens, just the example I gave you, going for a $70 difference, changing a vendor out of Stark County, reputable company, going to Summit County. So there's that issue. And because we need to try something that's different. We need maybe a teacher's perspective, someone that has a different skill set, someone that thinks a little bit differently, that thinks outside the box. Because folks, the way it's going, our grandkids, our children are not going to be able to live here if we don't do something. And it is as dire as that says. It's not me saying this, Larry. This has been going on for quite some time, since 2017, and what has been done to change, I don't believe much of anything. And that's a travesty.
Well, thank you, Joe. This has been Larry Slagle with Candidate Spotlight on Massillon Live with Joseph Cole, who's running for Stark County Commissioner. So we'll see you next time.
Thank you. A lot of problems, and they're even more so as we are sitting here talking now.
What problems might those be?
Well, look at the property tax issue. That would be one of them. If that continues, I have a feeling that all of us are going to be looking for a new home.
Why don't you explain that a bit?
Well, they continue to rise at such an alarming rate that really puts a lot of our most vulnerable citizens, namely seniors, in a really dire situation. And if I'm lucky enough to be elected by the people for a county commissioner, I'm going to be an advocate for having a property tax freeze for anyone 65 or older living in their home on disability, Social Security. The way we treat our seniors, not only in Stark County, but within our country, is abhorrent. They are often a great source of knowledge, resource. For example, look at the Board of Elections is having a terrible time getting poll workers for this upcoming election. Wouldn't it be great as an educator, and I'll talk a little bit about my background with that, but wouldn't it be great, Larry, if we could partner with our 18-year-old high school students, that they could get an opportunity to see how democracy truly works, to get in there and help seniors on this process? Because many high schools, one of the requirements before graduation is some sort of community service, some sort of action within our community. And that would be a fantastic opportunity, because you have all of these seniors with a wealth of information and young people that are sponges for this guidance. And that would be one way we could solve one of the really pressing problems within our community.
Well, how does the commissioner have an impact either on the Board of Elections or the auditor in terms of the tax appraisal?
Absolutely. As commissioner, you are in many respects the chief executive of the county. Therefore, you have that platform to get in there to make actual real change by talking with people, meeting with people, your influence, all of that, especially with the Board of Elections, since that is, as you know, there was the problem that our commissioners got in with the voting machines, and that was a real issue. But
what do you mean by that?
Well,
what happened?
Well, the Board of Elections, as you know, has the right to go ahead and select the voting machines that they see fit. They went through that very long process. They did that. At that point, the commissioners were hands off, which oftentimes is really the problem that you see with our commissioners. They're not doing their due diligence. So therefore, just like the solar issue, they're coming back at this several weeks later when constituents are mad because of certain issues. They've not done their due diligence, and they get caught with their pants down around their ankles, and then they have to go into damage control. Same thing with the Dominion East Ohio situation, the Dominion voting machines. That was an exact example of them